One thing that I'm sick of hearing about is the weighted stretch. So the weighted stretch is basically putting tension under the end range of motion for the muscle as a magical tool for hypertrophy. Now, the actual research on this that was done by a bunch of fitness science-based people actually demonstrated that weighted stretching didn't actually lead to any advantageous hypertrophy outcomes, which was totally against their bias. So it was a very embarrassing moment for all concerned. But what we need to do is we can look a little bit deeper, because also not all muscles benefit from it, but it doesn't mean no muscles benefit from it. So what we need to look at is a muscle will benefit from loaded stretching if it has long stretchable fascicles. So this includes the hamstrings and lat. They have very long fascicles that actually can be stretched out really, really well. It's a muscle that experiences high passive tension at long muscle lengths. So it needs to actually do that. So for our bicep, for example, we're not going to get a high degree of passive tension there because simply the elbow is in the way. It stops us from going really further. And then by bringing shoulder extension, you don't actually get that much shoulder extension anyway. Now, it has good mechanical advantage at the end range, which means it can be loaded well. There's no point doing end range loaded stretching unless you can actually load it with a significant degree of tension. So this is why quadriceps actually respond really well to mid-range and to shortened position exercises. The leg extension is a killer quad exercise, and you don't need to lean all the way back to emphasize the lengthened position because it is actually really good at being loaded in the shortened position. When we look at exercises like reverse Nordics, they have a really poor loading potential. So their ability to actually get stronger in that position and get hypertrophy is terrible. And then finally, the muscle needs to respond strongly to sarcomerogenesis and transduction of mechanical stress. So mechanotransduction is the fancy word. So it needs to be able to respond quite well to that. So the muscle groups that do that are the lats, the chest, the hamstrings, the glutes, and the calves, in particular the soleus. Okay, it's the gastrocnemius, sorry. The gastroc loves a long stretch position. It's really, really good for it. So we need to look at doing those exercises and putting an emphasis on the stretch. Now, muscles that don't really get a benefit from the stretch are the biceps, because as I said before, they're not going to go that far past the body, and the elbow limits the stretch. The next one is the delts, particularly the medial delts. Everyone says the medial delts benefit from a stretch. There's a thing called the body that gets in the way of the medial delts having a stretch. And just swinging your arm across here is not really going to provide that full-on stretch to that particular muscle fiber. Now the quads, some benefits, definitely for flexibility, definitely for tendon health, but from hypertrophy, not really there at all. And the traps are actually more tension and mechanotransduction rather than stretch loaded, because if we actually look at how we stretch the traps, we actually need to move the origin away from the insertion. And if we're doing like a heavy hold, we're not actually doing that. We're just having a high degree of mechanotransduction from an isometric position. So what you kind of really need to look at with this is smarter exercise selection with a lot of things, but also most importantly, effort overall, repeatability, and actually increasing levels of mechanical stress and mechanotransduction in the muscle fibers will lead to better results over the long term for your hypertrophy.